Yanderes in anime and manga are something that are very common, and it's something that a lot of series tend to always have. Now, of course, sometimes these yandere characters or these yandere moments are usually done for comedic value or some sort of gag, but other times these yanderes can be shown to be very dangerous and just the type of people that you should probably stay away from at all costs. And today I'll be talking about a one-shot manga that I read quite recently in which it involves a yandere girlfriend, but it's actually a very unique story, and despite this one shot only being 58 pages, it had a beginning and an end. And I have to say, this is probably one of those stories that I'm never really going to forget, and it's something that's always going to be in the back of my mind. And this series is called I Was Wrong. Now, of course, before we begin, I have to give a massive spoiler warning because, like I mentioned, this story has a beginning and an end. It's not an ongoing series. This story has already been completed. So if you want to read this series for yourself and you don't want to get spoiled, then you have been warned because this video is going to have spoilers. Now that that's out of the way, let's just begin. So the story starts with a boy in which we will find out his name would be Furuya, revealing that quite recently his girlfriend just died. And of course, because of this, he has not gone to school, and there's been a lot of phone calls and messages from the people around him worrying about what he's been up to. Since obviously these kinds of things are something that not a lot of people are able to forget that easily. But one detail that not a lot of people know is that his girlfriend didn't die by just some accident. No, he reveals very quickly that he was the one that took her life. And these moments, all he could think about is how finally he is free from this girl, as he will reveal very quickly in a flashback how it wasn't always like this. This girl, who goes by the name of Sarah, was one of the most attractive girls in his school, and one day they encounter each other, and this would just be the beginning, as he would then be surprised by the fact that the girl will reveal that she has developed feelings for him and she wants to start a relationship with him. At first, he was excited and couldn't believe that a girl like her wanted to be in a relationship with him, but very quickly he would soon realize that there was another side of Sarah that he didn't see in the beginning, and that is the fact that she is a very controlling person. Not only did she want to know where he was 24/7, but she will also put listening devices on his phone, and as well as put a GPS tracker to track every location that he is at. And even at one point, he even states that there was a moment in which she actually pointed a knife towards him. But despite all of these circumstances, she doesn't see anything wrong with it and tells him that as long as he obeys her, then he is not going to get hurt. When Furuya demands that they both should not be a couple anymore and should just break up, this is where Sarah shows that she has no intentions of breaking up with him. And as she gets closer to him, this is where Furuya freaks out and actually shoves her, causing her to slip from the stairs that they were at, and as a result of this, she falls to her death. Furuya panicking, he quickly leaves the scene, and since there was no witnesses, many people just assumed that this was just a terrible accident that happened to Sarah. However, despite Furuya thinking this is all over and now he can move on with his life, he gets a surprise visit, and this visit was none other than Sarah. But this isn't a case in which Sarah somehow found a way to stay alive. No, this is her spirit, and while at first Furuya wants to get rid of this spirit, nothing he does gets rid of it. And this is where the spirit of Sarah explains how no matter what he does, she's not going to go away anytime soon. And there was actually a few interesting things that happened during their conversation. The first one being was that despite Sarah having her life being taken by Furuya, she forgives him for what he has done, which of course surprises Furuya because he wasn't expecting her to forgive him that easily. But also she states that the reason why she's still here is because there is something that she still needs to do and wants Furuya to fulfill her request. And at first Furuya is very hesitant, but realizes that this entire situation was because of him. He decides to do just that, to fulfill Sarah's request. Now, Sarah's request was very strange to Furuya because her request was just simply to be on a date with him. They stopped at a cafe because she wanted to try dessert from this cafe, but unfortunately she will never be able to try it out. So she wants Furuya to go to this cafe and order the dessert that she wanted to taste and taste it for himself. Furuya complies and orders the dessert and tastes it for himself, but states that the dessert is nothing really special. Of course, Sarah doesn't believe him and tells him to give her a taste of the dessert. Of course, this shocks Furuya because it's very impossible to do that since she's no longer alive. But despite all that, Sarah tries to pretend like she can taste this food. And for just a moment, Furuya states that he could actually see a different kind of emotion that he never saw in her when she was still alive. This being that Sarah looked sad. after that cafe, as they are walking together, this is where Furuya reveals that he's really unsure who Sarah really was. Sure, when she was alive, she seemed to be a yandere that didn't want to let go of Furuya no matter what, and he saw that very clearly with what she was doing to him. However, he starts to wonder if this was really the case. What if she did have a normal side to her that Furuya just simply couldn't see? And what if everything she did was just simply for attention? Since when she was alive, he wasn't giving her any attention whatsoever. She would also claim in this conversation between him and her, she would say that she oftentimes worried if other girls from their school would try to go after Furuya. And this was surprising to Furuya because for the first time, he was actually hearing her feelings and wonders if he was wrong about her from the very start. He tells her if she has any hatred towards him for what he did to her, in which she responds by saying that she doesn't really have any hatred towards him, and as long as they're able to have dates like this, then she is glad that she is no longer alive, but makes another request towards him, telling him that he should not turn himself in to the police because she is not mad that she is no longer alive because of him. This doesn't sit well to Furuya because it seems that he is going to get away with something terrible that he had done. Some time has passed and it seems that Furuya has finally decided to go back to school, but unsurprisingly Sarah is always there to see what he's up to. Of course, nobody can see her other than Furuya, but it's very clear that the guilt is starting to catch up to Furuya as he is very deeply regretting everything he had done, and see that despite Sarah being in a very unfortunate situation, she's still very happy at pretending to be in a relationship with him even after she passed away. And this of course makes him feel more guilty as he can't blame anybody but himself for this whole thing. We fast forward and we see this next moment in the school rooftop, in which is just simply Furuya and Sarah. Sarah questions Furuya why he's even here because it seems that he is skipping classes just to be in the rooftop. Furuya asks Sarah if spirits can touch each other, to which she explains that they can, and in fact she isn't the only spirit that is around him. There are actually other spirits that she actually has bumped into, only she can see them because she is a spirit. And this is where Furuya decides to make his decision. Even though Sarah pleads to him to stop doing what he's about to do, he tells her that he can't keep going on with his life with the amount of guilt that he feels inside, and feels that this is the price he has to pay for what he has done. And in his last final moments, Furuya tells Sarah that she did nothing wrong and it was his fault for not taking her feelings into consideration, and apologizes for the type of boyfriend that she got. And after saying what he had to say, he jumps off, and Sarah can do nothing but watch because due to her being a spirit, she is unable to touch him to stop what he's doing. And after this, we see Furuya watching his lifeless body as he comes to the realization that he has now become a spirit as well. Sarah confronts him, telling him that that was not the answer to the problem, how he still had a life full ahead of him, and how there are things that he won't be able to do now that he's no longer alive. But Furuya is quick to say how he doesn't really care about any of that, as for him this is the only way he could pay for his sins. But very quickly after Furuya says this is where Sarah's demeanor starts to change drastically, and this is where we get the biggest twist in this story. Sarah calls Furuya an idiot for what he has done, but in a very happy tone. She is able to congratulate herself for her acting, and she tells him very quickly how all this time she was just waiting for him to die. She reveals how when she passed away and she became a spirit, she realized there was nothing she could do to get back at Furuya. She couldn't curse him or haunt him or even throw objects at him because she was a spirit. So what she decided to do was just fill Furuya with guilt. And it seemed that her patience finally paid off because that's exactly what happened. Furuya ended up dying because of the guilt that he had inside of him. Of course, Furuya is at a loss for words and is shocked at this revelation, but he's able to tell her that she was lying to him and how he was being lied to this entire time. However, Sarah doesn't really seem to be bothered by this and tells him how it's not her fault that he decided to do what he did, and if he was going to be haunted by something like guiltiness, then he shouldn't have ended her from the very beginning, and then tells him that there's no point in arguing anymore because what's done, it's done. From now on, she is going to be by his side forever, and there's nothing he can do. And that is how the one shot ends, with Furuya realizing that for the rest of eternity he is going to be stuck with Sarah until who knows how long. So yeah, overall it was a very tragic end for Furuya, as he not only ended his life by guiltiness, but now he comes to the realization that he was being lied to this entire time. The girl he thought that had some sort of normalcy to her, the girl that he believed was somebody that was actually a very great person, was none other than just simply a psychopath who was patiently waiting for his downfall. Now of course, with that being said, that doesn't mean that he was innocent the entire time, as he also was somebody that had his own issues, and he was not a great person either. I mean, he was the one that was responsible for her death, and he showed in the beginning that even though she passed away, all he can think about was how free he was and how now he was going to enjoy life more now that she was no longer with him. But with that being said, knowing the kind of person Sarah is after reading the entire one shot, can you really blame him for feeling like this in the beginning? I mean, Sarah was already crazy when she was alive, but now that she passed away, she showed just how even more crazy she was and how good she was able to hide it. That's the terrifying thing about this whole thing, is the fact that Sarah was very good at hiding her true intentions, her actual personality. Not only did she trick Furuya, but she also tricked us, the readers, as well. For a moment, me and myself included, I thought that she was somebody that was just being misunderstood. Sure, her wanting to control Furuya 24/7 is not the best idea, and it's something that nobody should do, but when she was acting normal, it made me think that she was just mostly misunderstood. Maybe she did all those things in the past was just simply to get her boyfriend's attention, since she wasn't getting anything from him. But after reading the entirety of this one shot, I can safely say that she is a psychopath, and this is somebody that should have never been given a second chance. And that's all I pretty much have to say. Once again, if you're interested in this series and you want to read it for yourself, I highly recommend it. It's a very solid story, and it's not going to take too much of your time since it's only 58 pages. So yeah, that's about it. I hope you enjoyed this video, and I'll see you next time.